Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a review on the movie Starve Acre. Yes, this movie was released in 2023, so it's a little bit older. What's the point of me doing a review on it at this point? But still, I just recently watched it because I am subscribed to AMC Plus, and AMC Plus premiered it, and I've really been looking forward to watching this movie. So I was like, you know what the hell? I enjoyed this movie enough that I feel like, just talking about it, hashing out my thoughts, and if you've seen this movie, what did you think about it? And quick warning, before I do head into my thoughts and feelings on this movie, I don't plan on having any sort of big massive spoilers whatsoever. There might kind of be some slight spoilery sort of things, but nothing to the point that it's going to ruin your movie viewing experience, if that makes sense. I'm like if people happen to die, I'm not going to tell you if anyone lives or dies. I'm not going to go like into spoiler territory as far as that is concerned. So let's get going. Like I said, this movie was released back in 2023, and if you happen to have an AMC Plus account, it is currently on there. It was directed by Daniel Talio. I might be mispronouncing that guy's name. The movie is pretty easy to get through. It's just like an hour and 40 minutes, thank God. Because I hate when things start going like past 2 hours or so. So I think the runtime of this movie is pretty well done. So if you have no idea what this movie is about, this is the official IMDb plot synopsis. After their young son dies from an asthma attack, parents Richard and Juliet both experience strange happenings while struggling with their grief, and after Richard discovers the remains of a hare, he witnesses it slowly regenerating itself. So that's as far as I'll kind of get into the plot with the mysterious hare, if you will. And this movie, a big part of why I wanted to watch this movie is definitely the terrific cast, you guys. You got Matt Smith, you got Morpeth Clark, you got Robert Eames, Sean Gilder, Aaron Richards, Melanie Kilburn. Seriously, this whole cast, I've seen in other things. I love it. But yeah, especially the big draw, especially for me, definitely Matt Smith and Morpeth Clark. I love the two of them. So I love them as a married couple in this struggling over their grief. So the best way to describe this movie, it does take place in the 1970s. So you kind of have that historical aspect to it. And it's also described as being like a British folk horror story, a tale. And I really liked that vibe of the narrative, this folk horror aspect. Now, this may frustrate some viewers because I think some people kind of go into this movie expecting it to be like extreme horror, if that makes sense. This movie is, even though it is described as being a horror movie, it's not necessarily scary, if that makes sense, which me personally, I was totally fine with because I have a hard time with horror movies. I don't like movies that have an overabundance of like gore and blood. I can't stand things with body parts being chopped off or eyes being gouged out, things like that. So this movie, it's more of like a subtle horror movie, if that makes sense. The horror elements are mostly kind of more down to kind of some of the world building that's established and the very atmospheric nature of this movie. There's this really dark atmosphere. It's really bleak and dreary and gloomy. Seriously, there's like no color in this movie. It's like kind of this monotonous kind of gray tone. And like even what everybody's wearing, nobody is wearing anything vibrant and colorful. Now, the character played by Aaron Richards, because Aaron Richards' character is playing the sister of Morpeth Clark's character. Aaron Richards' character, she kind of does have a bit more vibrant, colorful clothes, which kind of makes sense with her character and kind of her personality versus the personality of her sister and whatnot, which I think is really interesting, kind of in the context of what's going on in this movie. But even then, her colors are almost kind of muted, and you literally kind of don't even get any light in this movie until like the final framing shot of the movie. Once again, I won't go into spoilers, but you strangely enough don't get any sort of sense of light and color until the final couple minutes of this movie, bizarrely enough. And like I said, this is described as being like British folklore. And the big thing kind of going on in this story is you have this fictional tale of a character called Dandelion Jack, who is described as being like this pagan spirit of the area. And there has to be like 3 sacrifices to him for him to like kind of rise up and get a body or something, you know. So that's where you're getting kind of this folklore aspect to the story, kind of those subtle horror elements. It's through this world building of Dandelion Jack and how that's established within this area, the superstitions, and in turn how that kind of connects to Matt Smith's character, because Matt Smith's character with Morpeth Clark, like I said, their husband and wife, they are moving back to like his home here, just out in the country, you know, and he is familiar with the story of Dandelion Jack, and there's a big, huge plot point with that, how he has been emotionally scarred through past trauma as a child in relation to this story of Dandelion Jack. So I really like that aspect of the story too. The movie doesn't over-explain anything. Let's put it that way. The movie does not over-explain anything. It whenever it kind of brings stuff up, you've really got to be paying attention. There's a lot about this movie that you've got to be paying attention. You've got to be paying attention very quickly, because sometimes something is kind of brought up really quickly and kind of brought back in other ways. So yeah, kind of the brief times where Matt Smith's character brings up stuff from his past as a child, you know, some previous childhood trauma that has happened. It's very, very pivotal and important to not only his character, but some of the things kind of going on as the movie progresses. Like I said, the horror aspects of this movie, because it's not really that scary in some ways. It's all down to this movie just having a really eerie vibe to it. It's very creepy in places. It's the atmosphere more than anything. And it's also a very, very slow burn of a movie, you guys. If you find this movie to be very slow, I won't blame you if you feel that way. If it's kind of a little too slow and boring for you. I think for me, it didn't bother me. I kind of liked the really slow burn of it. But it can feel slow, I think, and I wouldn't blame you if you kind of felt that way, and if it really just turned you away. And the thing is, like the last maybe 20 minutes of this movie or so, the movie just escalates in the last 20 minutes just so incredibly quickly and so strangely and so bizarrely. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the things happening in the last 20 minutes turn you off from the movie as well. For me, again, I was here for it, and I was so intrigued and so hooked by the last 20 minutes, because again, things just escalate so quickly and so bizarrely. It just takes a direction. It's like, what the hell am I even watching? Even in my notes, I wrote down here in my notes that I'm surprised that this movie wasn't put out by the film studio A24. A24, a lot of the movies that I have watched from that company tend to be really bizarre and strange and unique. But yeah, this movie was put out by like BBC Films and BFI. So that was just kind of strange enough for me, that studio putting out something so, I think, risky as this, because this movie would totally work in like the repertoire of like A24. Now, as I did really briefly kind of mention at the top with the synopsis, that this couple, Richard and Juliet, played by Matt Smith and Morpeth Clark, their son does die, literally like in the first maybe 10 minutes or so of this movie. He dies from like an asthma attack, and that is kind of the whole core of this movie, is them dealing with the grief of losing their son and trying to move on from that if possible. And it creates this rift. It creates this rift in their relationship, and their coping mechanisms are both very different. Matt Smith's character, Richard, he's like an archaeologist, and on his property, he's digging. He's looking for like this oak tree. He's looking for various different things in regards to this tree because it relates back to the whole myth of the Dandelion Jack origin story. So he spends his grief trying to find this oak tree, and that's how he's coping. But then, like Juliet, Morpeth Clark's character, she's dealing with it in a completely different way. And once again, it creates this really fascinating rift between them in regards to the death of their son. And as I mentioned also, very quickly with the synopsis, Richard's character, while he's digging around, he discovers the skeletal remains of a hare. And he puts it in a box, he takes it back into the house, and he starts to realize that the hare is slowly rejuvenating itself. It's starting to get organs. It's starting to get blood. It's starting to get fur. So this is one of the most fascinating parts of the movie. I'm going to try not to go entirely into spoilers here as best I can, but this is one of the most fascinating parts of the movie is what's up with this rejuvenating hair. What is going on? Once again, this whole movie is described as being about, British folklore, and that is the horror, and I love the subtle horror of this hair. This hair doesn't really particularly do anything. It is a puppet. I believe it is a puppet, but the puppeteering is just so spot on. You guys, I thought the effects of that were just really well done, because I was worried it would take me out of the movie, but it didn't. I thought all that was really well done, because it's creepy enough, But yeah, this hair, it doesn't really do anything. A lot of times it's just kind of staring, at our main characters, and they're staring at it. I love the subtle effect of this hair, the subtle horror of it, and how it fits into the plot. What does it all mean? And like I said, this movie is an exploration. It's an exploration of grief, loss, past trauma, local superstition. I loved all that. And again, I wouldn't blame you if this movie is not for you. It is not going to work for everybody, depending on the type of horror that you like. If you like more subtle horror, I think you will like this. Yeah, if you're looking for like blood, guts, all that sort of stuff, this is not the movie for you. This movie is definitely much more in the vein of something like The Witch with Anya Taylor-Joy. Now that movie is definitely the far superior, I think, but if I had to compare this movie to something, what you can kind of expect, it would definitely be something like The Witch. So if you enjoyed The Witch, I think you should give this a chance, give it a shot, and see how you like it, because it's kind of similar in some regards. But yeah, I actually really liked this movie. I liked what it was exploring. I definitely want to. I would love to have like a rewatch of it and kind of pay attention to certain details, knowing what I know, and the bizarre direction that this movie takes at the very end. Seriously, the final shot of this movie, it's so bizarre but delightfully creepy at the same time, and I was like, damn, wow. You're just kind of left hanging at the end of this movie, and it's kind of like, what did I just watch? But wow. But yeah, again, this cast is definitely well worth it if you love an all British cast. Again, Matt Smith and Morpeth Clark, Sean Gilder and Robert Eames. I just adored this cast. They elevated this movie. I think they truly elevated this movie. But yeah, you guys definitely let me know if you've seen this movie, if you liked it as much as I did, or maybe you hated it. If you hated it, that's totally fine. Let me know what it was about this movie that didn't work for you. But yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.